So it is official. Peter Obi has now left the ADC and is now in a new party called the NDC. Wow. I mean, Peter Obi, who had about 6.1 million votes in 2023 election, and this is a man who has an entire movement organically built around him, and he has now landed himself in a new party that most Nigerians could not even name. Even if you put gun on Nigerians' neck, they don't even know NDC. They don't know where NDC emanated from. But it's fine. It's a good party. Kwankwaso is also reportedly following him there. But now everyone is talking about what this means for 2027. But nobody, nobody is actually asking the most important question right now. And anyone who loves Peter Obi and has been following the party politics, the pattern of party politics in Nigeria, should ask this question: who owns NDC? Because in Nigerian politics, you don't just walk into a party. The truth is, you walk into somebody's arrangement, and that somebody you are walking into always come with a price. Yeah, that is Nigeria for you. It comes with a price, and you must be willing to pay the price. Before we dissect further, let me paint a picture so that you can get some little things. If you remember, Peter Obi ran under Labour Party in 2023. Most of us know that. But the truth is, he did not just run, he ignited something. You see, young Nigerians who had never queued before to vote in their lives, they were lining up at polling units from morning till night across Nigeria. They had a movement, obedient movement, and that movement was real. And people who genuinely love Peter Obi and his political ideology, they key into the movement. And the energy was so real, so perfect. And this was a kind of motivation for Peter Obi. Nobody expected it. It was a wave. It was a wave. The moment that election ended, Labour Party began to eat itself. And this wasn't an ideological problem. It wasn't even about policy. But it was about who controls the structure, who signs the papers, who gets the patronage, and who decides the next candidate of the Labour Party. And you see, the same story Nigeria has told with every opposition party since 1999 for the student of history. So Peter Obi found himself fighting a war inside his own, inside his own house, while trying to position himself for the 2027 general election. And as a man with intuition and with that political prowess, he knows that he had to move, and that was why Peter Obi had to move to ADC. And I told my friends then, I said, ADC was never Peter Obi's destination. It was just like a waiting room, because the ADC was a registered name with no real machinery. You see, no funding story, no grassroots. It was a place to pack while you figure out what next. And that's what Peter Obi has done with the ADC. And now, Peter Obi and Kwankwaso has now migrated to the NDC. Kwankwaso's journey is slightly different from Peter Obi, but it still lands on the same place, because Kwankwaso's NNPP delivered Kano in 2023 election, and that was genuinely impressive. But NNPP without Kano is almost nothing. And Kano alone cannot win you the presidency. Kano alone cannot win you the president of Nigeria. So Kwankwaso knows this. He knows the arithmetic because he has been in the game since the 90s. So he knows that a regional party is a leverage and it is not a launch pad. So he knows. So here are the two men, one with a mass movement and no stable structure, and the other one with a stable structure and no regional ceiling. Yoruba will say Opakaso. We need to understand one or two things about the NDC because we need to understand what Peter Obi has actually worked into. The Nigerian Democratic Congress, the NDC, is actually a registered political party in Nigeria, and INEC itself recognizes the party because it has a certificate. And you see, it exists on paper, and also in Nigerian politics, that paper, that certificate is not a small thing, no. It's a big deal. And getting a party registered in Nigeria, in a country like this, yeah, it's a lot. So the question is, who built this shell? Who built this NDC shell? Who has been sitting on the NDC? Who has been keeping the NDC alive? Who has been paying the administrative fee and who has been maintaining the NDC's registrations? You see, and that person has been waiting for the right moment, you know, to sell the party. Yeah. And that is the question. The question I just asked now is the question people are not asking. Everybody's just happy. Oh, Peter Obi has now moved to a new party, all this, that. Because here is how this works in Nigerian politics. Let me explain. Desperate buyer like Peter Obi, who is carrying about 6.1 million votes and a very strong movement. The original owners of parties like NDC, they don't disappear. What they do is they become the stakeholders, the silent one. Sometimes they are strong stakeholders and they have a say in the party, but we don't know them. Who are they? Yes, who are they? And in all this, we need to talk about the legal framework around OB specifically, because all these things matter a lot. Under the section 68 of the Nigerian Constitution, a lawmaker loses their seat if they leave the party under which they were elected, unless there is a division in the party or there is a merger. That's what the Constitution says. But in Obi's case, Obi is not a sitting lawmaker, is just a presidential candidate in waiting. So that provision does not apply to him, right? But what the Electoral Act does regulate is how parties conduct primaries and how candidates, how they emerge and what the internal democracy looks like. Yes, what the internal democracy look like, and this is where it gets interesting, because if Obi joins the NDC and he immediately becomes its presidential flag bearer without a competitive primary, without other aspirants, without a genuine process, INEC has the authority to scrutinize that. And that's what I am talking about. So rushed candidacy process have been challenged in court before. You can fact check me on that. Check INEC primary election guidelines also to have more knowledge. You can fact check me on what I just said now. So the institutional risk here is not the defection itself. Institutional risk is what happens inside ADC after Peter Obi and Kwankwaso arrives. Because we'll be left with so many questions. Because you begin to ask who controls the National Working Committee of the NDC, who runs the primaries of the NDC, who has the final say on the presidential ticket. These are the questions Peter Obi is likely to still face. Because if those questions don't have clear answers before 2027, ah, hmm. And in Nigerian parties, they often don't have answers. Then Obi has simply traded one internal war for another one. That's just what it means. Because what looks like a simple defection story on the surface is actually 3 or 4 different games that is being played at the same time. If you don't know, let me tell you, it's being played by different people with different goals, and not all of them are aligned. They don't align. Yes, if you ask me why, let's start with Peter Obi. Peter Obi's core problem since 2023 has not been popularity, Baba popular wella. His problem has been structure. Doesn't have that structure. And the truth is, you can have the most passionate fan base, you can have the fame in Nigerian political history and still lose badly if you can't defend vote at 176,000 polling units. It's a problem. The obedient movement was extraordinary online, and at rallies they were on point. But at coalition stage, where Nigerian elections are actually decided, Labour Party did not have the agents, the lawyers, or the muscle to protect what they want. And that is so disheartening for a party like Labour Party with that massive support, that massive movement in 2023. The truth is, NDC doesn't solve that problem automatically, but NDC gives Obi a clean slate to build the structure by himself without fighting a parallel internal opposition inside its own party, like what's happened in ADC. And that is not a problem. That is nothing, because control over your own house is the first condition of a serious campaign. Yes, that's the number one thing. And when you look at Kwankwaso to me is not coming to ADC as a junior partner. Don't misread that. He's coming with a movement as well. Yes, and he's coming with Kano, and Kano is three-way presidential race. Is a weapon, because in 2023 Kano delivered for him in a way that embarrassed the APC on its own northern turf. And if he carries that into an Obi aligned platform in 2027, the North-South coalition map becomes genuinely competitive. Yeah, I see it. I'm a pastor. Sorry. There is another tension that people are not thinking about and they are not saying loud. The tension is, who is the presidential candidate? Because both of these men believes they should lead. Obi has the movement. Kwankwaso also have the Kwankwasia. He also has Kano. He has the movement. Neither of them is the type to play second. That conversation has not been resolved yet, but people are still saying Obi will lead. But And unresolved ticket hierarchy is exactly what collapsed their informal alliance in 2023 before it properly began again. They need to resolve it properly first. Because I don't want to hear a story. All you will start to see right now that Peter Obi is now in NDC, you start to see moves designed, to keep opposition fragmented. You begin to see targeted court cases. You begin to see regulatory pressure on NDC's internal processes now. You will see. And you begin to see quiet conversations with potential NDC defectors, offering them something better if they stay away. This is how Nigerian incumbency defends itself anyway. So if you look, this is how they do. So not always with votes, because most times, or let me say sometimes, is with frictions. With friction, yeah. And PDP is the most interesting silence in the whole story, because PDP is not even in the equation, because the old PDP structure, the governors, the senators, the party elders who backed Atiku in 2023 has said almost nothing about this NDC consolidation. They said nothing about this consolidation. And I want you to think about what that silence, and I want you to think about what that silence could mean, because it could mean panic. I may be wrong, but because they see the opposition space being taken and they don't know how to respond, or it could mean something more calculated. Maybe they are planning something, or they have a better, I don't know. And the Southwest remains the missing variable in all of this conversation, because no major Yoruba political figure has publicly attached themselves to this NDC movement. I don't know why. And you see, without a Southwest anchor, and Obi Kwankwaso ticket runs the same structural risk it ran in 2023. I'm serious. Because they were strong in the southeast, competitive in the north, but very thin in the region that has historically decided close Nigerian elections. Yes, because Tinubu owns that turf right now. And he would defend it with everything. Yes, it would defend it with the Southwest. It would defend it with everything, because he's still the sitting president and he has all of this available to him. So I see no reason why Peter Obi is not improving on his alliance with the Southwest. Yes, I don't know, but you see, this Obi Kwakwanso coalition, this is a coalition with real potential, and it has some real gaps. And in Nigerian politics, the gaps are usually where the story ends. To be honest, let's zoom out a bit, because this story itself is bigger than Peter Obi. It's way bigger than Kwankwaso himself. It's also bigger than the NDC, because what is actually being tested here is whether Nigeria's oppositions can ever function as a real check on power, or whether it will always collapse into personal ambition and elite negotiation before it gets anywhere near the presidency. Yes, I don't know, maybe you understand what I'm trying to say, because that is like a national question, and the answer has consequences for every single Nigerian, boy, girl, woman, man, any level you are. It's not just for the political class alone. Let's start with the economy. If you look at Tinubu's administration, his administration has pushed through the most some of the most painful economic reforms Nigeria has seen in decades. Fuel subsidy removal, subsidy gone. Naira devaluation, rising inflation, and the cost of food, cost of transportation, epileptic electricity. Ordinary Nigerians are feeling a lot simultaneously. And that's the reality Nigeria is right now. And when you look at it critically, you see that the government has been able to push these policies with relatively limited political resistance. Yes, because there is no organized opposition with enough weight to force a national convention about the pace or the human cost of all these reforms. So, you see, when we have a credible NDC platform, it changes that dynamics. Not because opposition parties write policy. No, they don't. Not in Nigeria. They don't do that in Nigeria. But because a government that knows that it faces a serious electoral threat, it starts making different calculations and it becomes more responsive, more compassionate, and more visible in the state it thinks it could lose. And they will be more careful about policies that create mass grievance in swing regions. Because when there's no that strong opposition, the government just roll out policies the way they want. And there's no real political competition. Yes, because a real political competition is one of the few things that makes government govern better. And Nigeria has not had a real presidential competition since 2015. Check it, fact check me. They haven't. And this thing is a serious problem. And it has a ripple effect on ordinary Nigerians. Because let's take a look at the federal to state dimension as well. Let's examine that. If the NDC consolidates what the governors, you see, state governors in Nigeria are the most powerful political actors that are below the presidency. And several APC governors are already quietly uncomfortable with Abuja. Yes, you know why? They are uncomfortable over security, over funding. They are uncomfortable. They are uncomfortable over revenue sharing, over security funding, over federal appointment that bypass their interest. So a credible opposition at a federal level gives those governors options. It gives them leverage, and a governor with leverage, behaves differently than a governor who has nowhere else to go. Yes, who has no option. You see, if NDC works out, if Peter Obi and Kwankwaso build something real under this NDC platform and take it genuinely competitive to 2027 election, even if they don't win, it will destroy something. I'm serious. It will break something important. Yeah. because it breaks the idea that only APC and PDP can be taken seriously in the Nigerian presidential race. That is number one for me. And it also proves that a registered third party can attract major competent figure to build national machinery and at compete at the highest level. Once that precedent has been set, cannot be unset because it reshapes how politicians think about party loyalty, and it reshapes how young Nigerians think about who deserves their vote, and it reshapes the entire political ecosystem of Nigerian electoral politics for a generation. So if this NDC coalition can work out, Peter Obi and Kwankwaso, they will be doing something great for posterity. So I have given you the full picture as I see it today, and I see it. And if you have information uh, I haven't waited correctly. If you are on the ground in Kano, in Abuja, in Lagos, in Oyo, whatever you might be in Nigeria, and you are watching these, um, and you are saying something different, bring it on in the comment section. That is what this channel is built for. No, not to hand you conclusions to, you know, this channel is to shaping the analysis together, because Nigeria deserves better. Nigeria deserves equality politics. And when analysis like this, when we share minds together, when opinions are brought together, we learn, and people pick one or two things from everything. I might not be perfect in my analysis, so I want to know your opinion, and please do well to subscribe, like, share, and I will see you by the grace of God on the next one. Till I see you next time, make the fire no die you.